Yeah, I think it's safe to say that this E30 of mine, this starts to be in a bit too rough condition. There's a lot of rust and there's many places that are broken and need replacing, that kind of things. It still runs perfect. Mechanically it's all fine. It's really enjoyable to drive and everything, but the chassis is just in a bit too rough condition. Basically everything below the moldings, it's really rusty, especially the doors, and well, whole car is really rusty everywhere. I could of course fix all that, but I don't know if that makes any sense. This is my winter beater and it would take way more than one summer to actually fix everything in this car. So the amount of time I have for this car, it just gets rustier and rustier every time I try to fix some of the rust problems. So yeah, I think it's time to let go of this car. So I bought this. Yeah, not my favorite BMW, but this was cheap and it was rust free, so that's why I bought this. And okay, the reason that this was cheap is that the engine, it doesn't actually run. It of course has the M54 B30, because what else I would buy. And it was sold so that it had shut off in traffic lights, and then the dipstick is dry. We can check that. Yeah, it's bone dry. And the engine doesn't turn over, so we need to check that. I have theory what this is, but let's see. It could be that it's a really minor thing, or it could be that it's totally blown and the bearings are seized or something like that. But anyways, this is quite good condition car actually. As I said, there's no rust, or at least I haven't found. All the door seams and everything is perfect everywhere. Even the jacking points are perfect, and I think this has quite okay options. So this has at least the Navi system, electric seats with memory, everything seems to be working, electric steering column, park sensors and everything. I don't know much of these cars, and of course it's the best thing, it's missing the sunroof, so that's also plus. And I think these X5s, I don't know much of these, but I think these are built from E39 and E46 parts, like the cluster seems to be directly from the E39, and yeah, AC system also seems to be from E39 and with the falling buttons and everything. The Navi system, it seems to be missing some pixels here, but the cluster seems to be fine if I turn this on. Yeah, everything is slow and broken. And yeah, it has only a little bit over 200k, so that's practically a new car for me. And I don't at least see that there's some pixels missing from the cluster, so that's really good. That works, but yeah, there's some kind of spot there that has problems. I need to probably change the screen or the whole radio. Let's see. The interior is quite good condition. Not everyone likes the color, but that's fine for me. There's some wear here, and it looks like they stole the door cars from E36, because these are all like this. I need to change those. And yeah, it says that engine oil level is low because of that problem. The rear seats look fine, nothing from here. We did tow this here yesterday, and I haven't actually looked at this car that carefully. But let's see, I did just check that this is rust free and fairly okay condition, so I bought this. This has really good studded tires. What are these branded? Yeah, Hakkapeliitta 9, so really good ones. Nothing here, some scratches here and there, that's fine. Overall the paint seems in quite good condition. Of course there's some scratches because the previous guy, he used this on his hunting trips on the woods, so there's some kind of scratches from that. But everything seems fine. There's some rusted bolts here, but all the plastics and everything seems not cracked. I need to take care of these lights. These are really faded ones. As far as I know, these are made in USA, so I think they used the same plastic as there that yellows the lights, so those need to be changed. I don't know why. this front bumper is totally grey. Like the other plastics are still black, but the bumper is grey, so I need to paint that too. But yeah, that's pretty much the faults. Like here's the only rust spots that I know about this car. Few dents here and there on this hood, but otherwise this seems to be rust-free car. So that was the main thing that I bought this car for, because I'm tired of dealing with the rust every day. So I want the rust-free car for cheap. But first thing we need to do is to actually check that what's wrong with the engine. I actually doesn't know. I didn't look that carefully when I was checking this car. So let's pull the plugs and then see if the engine turns over after that. If it doesn't, then we are probably good. If it doesn't, then it's probably engine out, and I will take the engine out of the E39 probably. I don't bother buying new one. That's good engine and it's almost the same as this is, so good enough. But let's see. I'm interested to see that what's wrong with this one. And of course this is a little bit slower than normally because I'm working on the Nordic garage here, so it's cold. It's -8 currently. Luckily it's not snowing and anything like that, but still. Here are the spark plugs. These actually look pretty okay. These are actually BMW one branded ones, Bosch ones, correct plugs for these cars. And these actually look pretty okay. I was hoping that this would be like drowning in oil, so that would tell that this had frozen separator and it was like just seized on being full of oil. But these are actually okay. Little bit dark, so this has been definitely burning oil. But otherwise, well, at least if something good is there's no full of metal or melted spark plugs or something like that, so the combustion chambers are probably fine. I did also check the oil filter and it's totally clean. There's no metal pieces or anything that in there. But of course that's the case if this has dropped the oil pump nut or something and there's no oil flowing. So of course there's no metal in the oil filter in that case. But yeah, let's try to rotate this engine. Okay, I got this to turn over like this, but I really don't like how stiff this is to turn. This is like, yeah, it could be that this has actually spun a bearing, but I don't feel any rough spots or anything, so I think I'm going to put some oil in this and try to crank this over without the plugs and see if it builds oil pressure. If it builds, it's probably okay. If it doesn't build any oil pressure, it probably has dropped the oil pump nut there. But let's see. The battery is totally dead and I have the charger here, but I don't think it could be that it doesn't have enough power to rotate this engine to build oil pressure. But let's see. I really don't have anything to lose, so we can try. Okay, did you notice that? I didn't catch that earlier, but the oil pressure light, it doesn't come on there with the ignition. So either the cluster is broken or the sensor is broken. The cluster itself has test to test all the functions, but I did check online and it doesn't test the oil pressure light. I think it's hardwired to the sensor itself. These are all LEDs, so it's not burned light bulb. So I think I will dig up the sensor now. It should be down there somewhere, so I need to take off this intake and try to dig up the sensor and see what's going on with that. Yeah, I guess that this wasn't running that well because like everything here is just totally broken, so yeah, even if we get this started, I don't think this will run any good, so yeah, but I still want to know that are the bearings or anything good, so I will at least try to get this running, and if it runs smoothly without any noises, then I will order rest of that stuff to replace. I don't know if you can see that, but the oil pressure sensor plug is not actually connected, so yeah, that's not good actually. Well, that explains why there's no oil pressure warning, but yeah, thinking of this fact that this engine has seized and there's no oil pressure warning, yeah, well, let's plug that in and let's see if we get pressure. The sensor is now in, so let's try. The battery is still dead. Yeah, we have the light. Yeah, and it goes off, so that's promising. Okay. I think I will going to try to patch that up and get it running, and then we can listen that does it sound like M54 or something like concrete dispenser, so let's see. At least it builds oil pressure, so it's not the oil pump nut failure that caused this to stop running. Okay, it should be together enough to make it run. I did throw in fresh sets of plugs and then the coils back on. The muff is there, it's missing stuff, but it shouldn't need that to run, so let's try to crank it over and see what it says. Okay, almost. I did put some fresh oil in it, so let's see. Oh. I don't know that valve is a bit noisy, but it doesn't seem to be making noise down there. Let's see. Let's give it a little bit gas. smoke is horrible. I don't know. It sounds fairly okay. Maybe I put some more oil in it and maybe swap the oil once. Let's see. Will it? Because that doesn't seem like Rottnock sound. It seems like more like lifter tick. So it could be just dirty oil that was left there, and it needs to be circulated or something like that. So let's see. Oh, it got happier. Nice. Okay, I think I start to have the full picture of what has happened. So yeah, there's now some metal pieces there if the camera will focus. It doesn't, but yeah, I think you can. Yeah, there's some metal pieces there, and I also there opened the oil filter, so there's a lot of metal pieces here now. So this was clean before, but now when I did run this little bit, it's full of metal pieces. At least there, like that. Yeah, every nook and cranny is, and you can see how glittery that is. Oil looks okay. It's like muddy, but it smells like old fuel. So, but that's probably because I tried to crank this over many times with the old fuel, and it only started after I put the new fuel. So the old fuel has like gone through the piston rings and then to the oil. That's pretty normal, but there's not much here, so there's little bit savings there, and it still runs like okay. So I think we need to pull that out because the neighbor is doing something there. So my theory is that the previous owner, he had done something under the intake. He had taken the intake off, because I did even find the bolt that holds the intake underneath above the what is that? Well, that metal piece that is under the engine and protecting that. So this bolt was there, and like pretty much every breather hose and everything there, it's like cracked or put back wrong. So I think he removed the intake to do something, and then he forgot to put back on the oil pressure sensor wire or the plug there. So this has been slowly leaking out all the oil through the breather, so it's hard to see that it's like there's a ton of oil under the intake because every breather hose is broken. So it has been slowly leaking out the oil from there, and then because there's no oil pressure sensor plug connected, he didn't know that the oil was running out and it was out of oil pressure, so it just ceased when idling. And because of the all the vacuum leaks this has, it probably didn't take much to actually seize the engine, because I know that when there's vacuum leaks, it is hardly even idle. So that's why it's probably still fine. I think so, because it rotates fine, it sounds fine when it's running, but it's now, when I got it running, it's making some metal pieces here, so it's now eating up the rest of the bearings there. So I think this engine could be still salvaged, like it needs at least the bearings and crank polish, but it could be that this can be like saved. If the problem would have been the oil pump nut dropping off, that would probably have been problematic, because that usually happens on higher RPM, and then the engine basically eats itself up. But here, because it was so low RPM and it still sounds fine, there's no rod knock or anything, I think this can be still fixed. So yeah, I couldn't get this driving just yet. I need to think about what I will do that. I know that I will probably try to fix this engine. If it's like total catastrophe, then I will swap the engine from the E39. But I don't know. I don't know if I do it here on home or do I tow it to the garage. The garage is like over 100 kilometers away, so that's big job to do. I think this engine could come out like from here, because there's that removable cowl there. This is all goes off, so I could just take this all off, lift the engine, probably replace the bearings, and that's it. I know many engines that have even dropped the oil pump nut, and if the owner immediately noticed that that's a problem, then usually the bearings and everything is fine, or not fine, but the crank is fine, and when you replace the bearings and maybe polish the crank, it's all fine after that. So yeah, I need to plan what I will do next, but that's at least my theory. The owner did something with the intake and didn't actually put anything back correctly there, and that's why it did run out of oil, and they didn't notice that until the engine actually seized. So yeah,